everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Sports Exchange. Yes, we have a couple new faces on here that we're looking to be a part of this program as we continue to expand this Sports Exchange. And I want to bring in some new talent to go along with the holdovers. First of all, I want to introduce Marky Bilson, who I got to know over at the National Sports Media Association. And he's going to be joining us on Wednesday nights at around 9 o'clock for about an hour. That's what we're going to be looking at. Marky, give everybody a little bit of an overview about yourself.
Oh, well, let's see here. I am a former sports writer for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Currently do a podcast on East Tennessee State sports. I know that's a big difference right there. But no, you have to understand that I have, as a working member of the sports media, been around the country a lot. So, yes, my first love was always Pittsburgh sports and writing with the Post-Gazette and doing some other things up there, covering the Steelers, covering the Pitt Panthers, that sort of thing for a while. But also my family matriculated to Johnson City, Tennessee. So I wound up graduating from ETSU. And was somewhat frustrated in the Tri-Cities with what I thought was an apologetic treatment of the sports down there. Hosted a sports talk show there for 3 years. And since then, I've been in Florida, where I do remotely my ETSU podcast from. And I've inherited a house down here. Obviously, people like living in Florida, the warm weather, although I've turned into a total wimp who thinks 59 degrees is now cold. So that's a little bit of the background of myself. Also some play-by-play of minor league baseball, many different things along the way that I'm sure that I'll say, when I was doing this, I'm sure you'll hear me make comments like that from time to time.
Marty, what part of the state?
It's Marquis, Marquis, not Martin, but Marcus is the full name. But Central Florida, no, that's fine. Central Florida, a little bit between Orlando and Tampa, a little bit south, if you will, Polk County to be exact.
Okay.
Although right now I'm over the line in Hillsborough, where I'm talking to you from today, but just barely, yeah.
Okay, let's go on to Mike Kelly. I've been in contact with Mike for, I think, late September, right, Mike? And now we finally, I know you were busy trying to get some loose ends tied up, and now we're able to get you on the show. And I'm glad that you're going to be a contributor on here. Give everybody a little background on there. And we are going to let the guys be able to ask you some questions about the Continental Football League after I get done with some of the agenda items. Go ahead, Mike. The floor is yours.
Perfect. Well, look, I appreciate that you've been as persistent as you have to get me on here. It's really humbling. But I spent my whole life in football. I coached at the collegiate level, started out in Ohio, and then moved on to San Francisco State, where my life really changed. And if you look at football backgrounds, some guys that have coached at San Francisco State are guys like Andy Reid, Mike Holmgren, Dirk Cutter. So I was able to be introduced to those guys. And from San Francisco State, I went on to become the offensive coordinator of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in the Canadian Football League. And I had a highly successful 5-year run in a single game. Just one of the things that they're going to tag me with all the time is that in a single game, and remember now, this is 3-down football, and the clock is running at 20 seconds in between. We threw for 713 yards in one game, beating the team that beat us the year before in the Grey Cup Championship. So from there, I went on to Valdosta State University in Georgia. I was down there for 3 years. Then I moved on to the XFL, the original XFL in Orlando. I was the offensive coordinator there under Galen Hall, which was just a tremendous experience. And unfortunately, egos got involved with the XFL, and they shut us down after we had gone 8-2, had the best record in the league. And I got a call from Andy Reid. And so off to the Philadelphia Eagles I went. I was fortunate enough to coach in the Pro Bowl with them. I ended up going with the Washington Redskins and worked in pro personnel for Steve Spurrier and Joe Gibbs. And then to be transparent, the NFL is a tough place to raise a family. Yeah. So I wanted to show that I could do something else, and I became an original professor of sport management at Drexel University in downtown Philadelphia. And I did that for 3 years. And while I was doing that, I would go over to NFL Films, and I broke down film for Ron Jaworski, for Greg Cosell, helped Ron out with Monday Night Football. And so I did work there, and then the CFL called me back. And so off to the Edmonton Eskimos I went as a receiver coach, and the next year I became the head coach and general manager of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. But I've also been the head coach at Widener University, the home of Billy White Shoes Johnson. Took one team went 12-1. We went to the Elite Eight. And I've also represented NFL players, getting them prepared to go to the combine. So I've done a little bit of everything, and now I'm excited about this next chapter here in being the commissioner of the Continental Football League.
And you know what? We're excited, Mike, to have you as our football analyst as well on these shows on Wednesday nights. I know that's what night you told me that you have free, so whether it's 15 minutes, an hour, that's just determined based on what text messages we have at what time you're available. So
sure.
Have a football expert like you are that could cover so many different things. I feel very, very fortunate that my persistence paid off to get you on today. And now when I find somebody like you, my goal is to find a way to continue to work with them. It doesn't hurt you're in Florida, so Candy and I can hang out with you and get something to eat, and we could talk football and make plans how we could grow your league and continue to build on our platform as well. Sure. All right, with all the introductions said, let's get to a few topics anyways. Our cutoff time hopefully is about 10 o'clock Eastern time. But our first topic of the night goes back to the fact that when Ohio beat UMass by 28 points with Ohio's quarterback only throwing 28 yards, his name was Navarro. I don't have the first name. Candy, you can look him up. What are your thoughts about a quarterback, Mike, throwing for only 28 yards in a game? And let's face it, we know Massachusetts wasn't very good and Ohio was pretty good, but 28 yards, how is that possible, Mike?
Well, if you're running the football, it doesn't matter. I can remember a game in the XFL. We were playing Birmingham, and we only and now Jeff Brom was our quarterback, the head coach of the University of Louisville, and he was the first team all XFL. But in that game, we only threw 4 passes the whole second half. And I can remember Galen Hall saying to me over the headset, he goes, "Do you think you're going to the well once too often with this run game?" And I said, "Until that bucket comes up dry, I'm going to keep dipping it down into that well." Yeah. And every run play, we were ripping off 7 to 9 yards. So why throw it? And when we did throw it, the 4 times we did, it was all off of play action, and every throw was a completion for over 20 yards. So, I don't have any problem. People get too wrapped up with, they threw for this many yards. And I said it myself when I was talking about our 713, but I also was part of the record with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in the most rushing yards for a single player in a game of 260. So you do what you have to do to win. And certainly when Ohio State is playing, was it Ohio State or Ohio?
This one, in this case, was Ohio University.
Bobcats.
Yeah. Bobcats.
Look, if you're winning the game and you got it under control and you don't need to embarrass anybody, just keep doing what you're doing. So 28 yards passing, that really doesn't mean anything to me if they were running the ball well and they won the game, because that's what the bottom line is: win the game. If you have to throw it, throw it. If you run it, run it. But I think too many people get tied up, especially in this day and age, of having some kind of identity and some cutesy little name of their offense, and they got to make sure that they uphold the marketing of it. To me, it's about winning. I don't care how you do it.
Sounds good. I expected a very detailed explanation for a guy that knows football like the back of his hand. Great stuff. All right, Marky, what are your thoughts about this?
Well, I'd have to know more about the context of it. I mean, when you have 28 yards passing, if it's on 4 yards, or if it's on 4 passes, excuse me, I mean, that's 7 yards a pass. And, that's not a bad average right there. That's about what you want to try to hit. But if you're presenting it just as 28 yards, I mean, the first thing I would think of is, the guy did not have a very good day. I'm reminded, and I've told you I'm a football historian a bit, but Thanksgiving Day way back in 1976, when O.J. Simpson rushed for 275 yards against the Detroit Lions, the Bills quarterback only threw for 29 yards that day. I think they only completed 4 passes, something like that. And the Bills got routed by the Lions. I mean, as good as OJ was, and he was their only ticket. They just, when it's a one-dimensional thing like that, I believe the final was something like 27-7, forgive me, and all that. But what people remember is that the Bills had one weapon that day. They used it to an NFL record of rushing yardage of the time, and that's primarily because they only had 29 yards passing. So if Ohio had only 28, again, you'd have to know the context. They throw only one pass, but it doesn't sound too good on the outset.
Yeah, all right, Candy, did you get this kid's name? His name is Navarro, right?
Parker Navarro.
And he actually was 3 of 8 for 28 yards.
He was 3 for 8 for 28 yards.
So 3.5 yards per pass. Not the greatest, but yeah.
But he contributed heavily on the ground with 14 rushes for 81 yards and 2 touchdowns in that specific game.
There you have it.
And a different game that year against Eastern Michigan, he threw for 315 yards. So, as Mike said, you got to do whatever you can to win the game. So, in that game, it was, I don't know what the weather was like. Sometimes the weather plays a factor in how many times you're passing or if you're running the ball. So, just got to do what you can to win the game.
All right, Marvin, you got the last word on this.
Yeah, really, you're speaking to the evolution of the game, really, because I think in today's world where it's Pat Mahomes and Lamar Jackson and you got the dynamic quarterback and, you've gone to the Sean McVay sexy offense. I mean, it's all about, those numbers, and we've gotten away from the idea that you can win the ball win the game running the ball, just like Seattle did. Run the ball and play defense. It's the game is really that simple, But again, the game has evolved, and nowadays it's weird to hear a quarterback who only had 28 yards passing. That doesn't even sound realistic, in this era of football. So yeah, it's odd, man. But again, it just goes to show you that you can still win this game at a high level just running the ball.
All right, you know what? I'm going to bring out just to get orientated with the show. Normally I have more than one non-sports topic, but tonight, because I knew we want to talk about his league, I'm going to go to one non-sports topic. Okay, ready? Because of the unpredictability factor that I have on this show, for those that have been on it a long time, Candy will all say you never know what he's got up his baggage. So non-sports topic of the night, people! Sweden has the only ski-through McDonald's! My goodness! Sweden and McDonald's! Mike, what do you think about that?
Well, after every college football game I ever played, they gave us 2 Big Macs, an order of fries, and a Coke. So I haven't eaten McDonald's pretty much since 1979. So if somebody wants to ski right through a McDonald's, hey, and that's what they're used to, that's their lifestyle in that area, then I think that's pretty freaking cool. Because if you can go with kid and ski through there and get a hamburger and a coffee, well, that sounds like a good day to me.
See, look at this guy. I like him. Don't worry, you're getting off easy. When I brought Marvin on for the first time, he got a steady diet of Charlie Kirk. He said, "Oh my God, what am I getting into?" But I'm getting you get off easy with skiing and Sweden and McDonald's. Not a bad thing, right?
No, look, I've spent over half my life going back and forth into Canada, and I was up there in January, and we had nights that the actual temperature was minus 35 Fahrenheit. But you know what? Those folks up there, they embrace it. They know how to handle it. They've got good clothes, and I'm sure Sweden is the same way. Just make sure you don't get any secret sauce on your snow gear, and you're good to go.
Great stuff. I'll tell you, Mike. I do. Don't worry though. When you come on future shows with these, I make it a little bit more tougher. But this one, I thought because we're just coming off the Winter Olympics, that I thought I'd throw skiing and Sweden and McDonald's all in one shot. Okay, Marky, now your first time with non-sports, but I prepped you earlier today with it.
Well, at first I thought you said a see-through McDonald's, and I was thinking, what was it? All glass, not golden arches, but crystal arches. That was my first that would ski through. And then I thought this was a rather brilliant aspect for Sweden because I if you look at the history of fast food, Wendy's actually made it. In 1969, they were the first to really offer a drive-through window, a pickup window. How did they meet or the challenge when McDonald's, Burger King, Burger Chef was, how did they get their niche among all those restaurants of the time? They offered transportation. You could pick it up. I'm assuming this McDonald's is by a ski slope and they're catering to their customers. And that sounds like a pretty good idea to me for a good business there in Sweden to have a ski through window and all this. And for that matter, I mean, whenever I go through Chick-fil-A, it's always so clogged up. So to have one lane not having the skiers, I think that, increasing the traffic flow, that's pretty good.
I'll tell you, Marky, I'm impressed too. I got two guys I'm impressed with. All right, Candy, what are your thoughts about this? These two guys are unbelievable. As Jimmy Walker would say in Good Times, they're dynamite. There you go. There you go, Mike. That's what I should
historical references to the old day 50 years ago, but yeah, okay, there we go.
Well, listen, you're dynamite. What the heck do you want me to say? I think this is good stuff. Oh, don't worry. It gets worse than this here with some of the football stuff. I had to break y'all in easy. All right, Candy.
The world's only ski through McDonald's is known as McSki, is located on the slopes of Lindvallen in Sälen, Sweden. It's been operating there since 1996. The unique location allows skiers and snowboarders to glide up to the service window to order, pay, and receive their food without removing their gear. It features a specialized window operating similar to a drive-through with 140 indoor seats available. The interior is designed like a rustic Swedish hunting lodge, and it is only open during the winter ski season. I think it's a cool idea, because if you get hungry or thirsty when you're skiing and stuff like that, why not? Put something up there. Obviously, since it's been operating since 1996, it has to be successful, or they would have done away with it a long time ago, even though people want to eat healthy these days.
Go ahead, Marvin.
Yeah, so jumping on what Candy said about eating healthy, to me, it's such a contradiction. I haven't been skiing, but I would think I'd be out there enjoying the fresh air, such a healthy thing to do. This is part of the healthy lifestyle. I'm exercising. McDonald's is poison. It's straight poison. And it's just, why would, the idea of being out there in the fresh air in the Alps, Norway, wherever you're at, and you're enjoying that, but you're putting this poison in your body, you should be drinking like Avion water or something like that. It's just, it doesn't really make sense. I don't get it. But it's working and it's making money. So that's the bottom line, right? So.
Okay. Great stuff. I like hearing the different opinions, especially on this. So, Mike, next time you come on here, you'll understand when I go to off the wall topics. This is a fun part of the show where nobody will ever really get used to some of the stuff.
I know I was going to be talking about a ski through McDonald's tonight. I'm ready, man. I got tap shoes on. I'm ready to go.
I got news for you, Mike. As this time goes on, and you keep prepared on these shows, you're going to see that my one-liners and topics are like Canada. They go far and wide. So let's go back to the NFL. And this is just something that's just a sad situation that Fred Taylor did not make the Hall of Fame yet again. So he could. His numbers were 11,695 yards. Rushing touchdowns, he had 66. Rush yards per game, 76.4, and 4.6 yards per attempt. Okay, Marvin, why don't you start off with this? What are your thoughts about Fred Taylor not making it to the Hall of Fame?
Well, the first thing I think of is Roger Craig just got in, and this guy had to wait how many years to get in? And we're talking about, one of the most impactful running backs in the history of the game, rushing and receiving for 1,000 yards each in one season. This guy, as a running back, was part of the foundation behind Bill Walsh's, amazing West Coast offense led by Joe Montana. And, Fred Taylor was an amazing back. I mean, this guy ran hard. He played the game the way the game should be played. In spite of so many injuries, he still put up ridiculous numbers, and he missed a lot of time. I mean, he missed real games. So it's really remarkable to think that he's above 10,000 yards in rushing. And I mean, he's a guy who I think is probably Hall of Fame worthy. But, there's such a backlog in the way that they categorize the players now. They make it much more difficult to get in. I don't know that Fred Taylor's going to make the Hall of Fame, to be honest with you. I wouldn't be shocked if he did. It wouldn't bother me. But when you look at the guys who are still on the list, and you look at the guys who've had impact and haven't gotten in yet, I think this is something that if I were him and the Hall of Fame was one of my dreams, I'd be concerned. So it's tough, man. They got to figure out a new way. First of all, the voting itself, I have an issue with the voters. I'm a guy who thinks that Belichick, Kraft should have got in first year, first time up. I have an issue with what the voters are really looking at. What are their metrics? What's their reasoning? A lot of it's subjective, and people's feelings get involved, unfortunately, and it becomes an emotional situation, I think. But Fred's a guy who played hard, and I could see him getting in there based upon what he's done. But again, with the backlog and the way they do it now, he might not make it.
I remember when I was covering a Super Bowl, Floyd Little finally got after so much time. And Fred Taylor, yes, as Earl says, should be in the Hall of Fame. He's the face of the Jacksonville Jaguars. He really is. So I'm just keeping my fingers crossed that he does get in. Mike, what are your thoughts about Fred Taylor?
Well, 11,000 yards is astronomical. I mean, that's a hard thing to do, and particularly in the National Football League, that you were able to sustain your health long enough to be able to produce like that. But Hall of Fames are a funny thing. I think Marvin hit on some really good points there, that the voting is so subjective. People get their emotions involved in it, and it's a tough thing. And I found in my life that if you're just, I got to get in the Hall of Fame, and I've had players, from the Canadian Football League say, hey, can you help me get in the Hall of Fame? And really, honestly, no, because it's got to be an organic thing. It's got to naturally happen. You're not going to force yourself into a Hall of Fame. I'll use a personal example here. I'm in the county Hall of Fame where I went to high school in Indiana. They didn't put me in it for 20 years. I'm in my university's Hall of Fame. They didn't put me in it for 22 years. My daughter got put in her college's Hall of Fame, first ballot, unanimous choice, 5 years after she graduated. So, it's going to be a subjective thing. There's so many players now that are worthy. How do you really filter through that? And so I understand the conversation. I understand how people get disappointed that they're not into a Hall of Fame yet. But also, it's so subjective. You don't know how some of these people are thinking. And you got to just kind of flow with it. You can't make yourself nuts with it.
Okay. Marky?
I would ask, if I could be so bold as to ask the board, at one time in, say, the Baseball Hall of Fame, 500 home runs would be considered to be, automatic you're in if you had 500 home runs. And I'm wondering if 10,000 yards rushing isn't the same. That's 10 1,000 yard season, or 10 1,000 yard seasons. Should that be that sort of barometer of the Hall of Fame? It's a question I'm asking. Or have we gotten to the point with 17 game seasons that now 10,000 yards, nice even number, but is it truly greatness? That's the question. If you think 10,000 yards is the number, I have no problem with Fred Taylor in the Hall of Fame. He wouldn't be my first select. He wouldn't be that sort of, how should we say this? The first guy that I would have thought. I would have actually, if there's one guy that I think is sitting out there that deserves to be in that isn't, I would say Jim Marshall, the old Purple People Eaters with the Minnesota Vikings, who played 20 years. He played 20 years, 4 Super Bowls. The Purple People Eaters were one of the great defensive lines of all time. And to me, even more than Alan Page, it just seemed because of Marshall's longevity that he was the key figure to me of that defense, if you will. I'm wondering if defensive linemen have a trouble getting into the hall sometimes, or at least in sets. I mean, we think of great defensive lines like the Purple People Eaters, like the Fearsome Foursome. Well, the Steel Curtain only has one member in. Where's L.C. Greenwood? Now, only Joe Green is in the Hall of Fame. Fats Holmes and Dwight White are not, and L.C. Greenwood, who also was up, did not get in. One thing I'd like to also just say, remember about Bill Belichick, and I just would like to throw this out. I understand totally. 6 Super Bowls you think he ought to be in. But at the same time, just going over to baseball, we would say, okay, Barry Bonds, 762 home runs. Doesn't he belong in? What about, but the idea he cheated with steroids. Does the 6 Super Bowls, but maybe done with sign stealing with video cameras, does that prevent him at least from being the first ballot Hall of Famer? I don't know if Bonds will ever get in. Belichick, I think sooner or later will, but that might be the penalty for him for the way he won the Super Bowls.
Fair enough. Good points all the way around. All right, Marvin. Mike, I called on you already about this, didn't I?
Yep.
Okay, just making sure. Marvin, go ahead.
First one.
You called on him too. I'm the only one that hasn't gone yet.
Oh, okay. All right, go ahead,
So,
Candy.
Marky, to your point, they say 12,000 yards is the benchmark.
Okay.
They said between 10,000 and 12,000 is considered the bubble range, with many deserving players wait years for consideration. The one person I would bring to attention that has less than that is Terrell Davis. He only had 7,607 yards, but he made it based on his extreme dominance over a shorter period. So yes, Fred Taylor, 13 seasons from 98 to 2010. He is, as a lot of us have talked about in the past, the breeding ground for football players is Florida. He was born in Pahokee, Florida, and he played for the Florida Gators. He is actually in the University of Florida Athletic Hall of Fame. He is also in the Florida Georgia Hall of Fame. He was in 1998, he was a first round pick, 9th overall. But yes, I mean, he has 11,695 yards. He has 66 rushing touchdowns and 8 receiving touchdowns with 2,384 receiving yards as well to add to his running back stats. And yes, I think it's going to be different now because now you're talking 17 game seasons. How many games are some of the players playing? Are they staying healthy? Are you not? But I believe he does deserve to be in.
Okay, what I'm going to do is I know we're looking at 10 as a possible cutoff time. We may go a little bit longer just to get Mike's opinion on specific topics. Well, Marvin will try to get you because I have a lot of good ones. Okay, I want to make sure we all cover all ground, and I have to introduce everybody to his football league. I feel it's something that was one of my goals going in. So Marvin, hang in there as long as you can.
I'm good till 10 o'clock.
I know
you told me. We have 2 that are good till 10, but yeah, anyway. But yeah, let's go.
Yeah, no, that's fine. We'll keep it rolling. All right, Ty Simpson got a $6.5 million offer to stay in college. Now from Miami, Tennessee and Ole Miss offered him $4 million. Was this a right move for him to declare for the draft? I think he's actually headed to the draft, Marvin.
Yeah, he is. When you throw that much money at somebody, you have to think about it. I mean, that's a lot of money. I mean, at the end of the day, there's a lot you could do with that for the rest of your life. But he's banking on being successful in the NFL. He's banking on, getting that first contract extension and, getting the $50, $60 million a year that these guys are making. It'll be more after the CBA. I think another year in college is always good for a quarterback. I do believe that, especially, if you have good coaching and there are obvious areas of your game where you need to get better. If I was Ty Simpson, At $6.5 million, I would have probably come back and gotten better at my craft and just made it so that I have a better chance to be successful in the NFL. Obviously, I think these first round picks are getting, if he's a top 2 or 3 pick, I mean, he's looking at 50 million guaranteed or something like that. I get that as well, but I don't know if he's guaranteed to go in the top 3, top 3, top 4, top 5. I don't know. You never really know. All right. You look at Aaron Rodgers and other quarterbacks who just, you thought these guys were top 10 picks and they slide. So, and then again, you could go to an organization that's just not ready to help develop a young quarterback. And we've seen that time and time again. So if I'm Ty Simpson, I absolutely am considering taking that money and figuring out how this university who's going to pay me this plans on making me a better quarterback going into the next draft.
Yeah, but it looks like his intentions now are to head to the NFL, aren't they?
Yeah, he's gone. No,
Right.
he's going to the NFL. But I'm saying I would have, really thought about that if I were him in particular, because it wasn't. It's not like it's not like this guy. Is a 5-year starter. I mean, in the end, what we've seen or what's been said is, you want guys that have a certain amount of snaps, certain amount of reps, especially a quarterback, who've played a certain amount of seasons. You want them seasoned to a certain degree before they make that major jump to the NFL. So, it's a lot to think about, man. If the money these guys are being offered, if he's looking really at long-term success, it's something to consider.
Okay, great stuff. Marky, after we get done with this topic, we're going to talk about the Continental Football League and then the other football games I had, and will be held out at a later date. Go ahead, Marky.
Well, in the case of Simpson, I think it's just, if you're asking me about this, I think in this case of Simpson, it's where's he going to make the most dough? And if he feels he's going to be a first-round pick and that's going to be, well, then yes. Otherwise, and I think we're seeing a lot of this right now, the Joey Aguilar situation in Tennessee, where he said, oh, don't count my junior college years. I still want to have eligibility. He knows he'll make more money at the University of Tennessee through NILs than he will being a likely free agent pickup as a quarterback in the NFL. And a tweener and maybe a UFL guy, that sort of thing. No, he'll make more money at Tennessee. So that's the question that any player like Simpson has to ask. He's going to make more money in college or in the pros. Ultimately, the college eligibility will end. But, obviously he's gambling on his future. And, in some ways, that's very exciting. I mean, I like to see a player that confident.
Yeah, me too. And I just came fresh off covering the Senior Bowl. And the nicest part about the Senior Bowl is this. It was nice to be able to see NFL instead of NIL. That's where I was at. So that's all right. We'll leave it over to Mikey. And then Candy, have you already said what you want on this? Or
no, but Mike can go first.
Go ahead, Mike.
I'll be quick. I'm not a fan of the NIL and the way it's being handled right now. I think it's ridiculous to give that kind of money to a 18, 19, 20-year-old. I also believe that at the professional level, that 27 is the sweet spot where you really start to see guys understand how to play the quarterback position. And, the NFL will give these kids advice as to where they imagine them to be projected. Now, it's not a science, it's not specific, but if I'm a kid coming out and I got a chance to make $6 million playing college and continue to grow and develop, rather than going to one of these teams that are just graveyards for these young kids to go, and they're not ready to handle the pressure, the type of play, and they're expected to be some type of savior for a franchise. I'd rather play another year, get some more money, mature myself, get my degree, and then if I get drafted later on in the draft now, because there's some other hot shots that they want, I'm okay. I'd rather get drafted late in the first round, early in the second round, where I'm going with a team that's right there on the cusp that they know a quarterback's going to make them better, than going into a team and they don't have an offensive line, they don't have receivers, they don't have a running game, and you go in there and get yourself pummeled. I think there's a lot of aspects that need to be addressed as a quarterback when you're coming out and when you can come out.
All right, Katie.
Okay, go ahead, Katie.
One of the things that I would say is if you look at the formula for the Green Bay Packers and how the success that they've had, they've drafted quarterbacks, let them sit and watch.
Yep.
But it's to a fairly good team, as opposed to, like, I feel bad for like Cam Ward, who came out number one, went to one of the worst teams in Tennessee. Coach got fired. Now he's got to learn a whole new system under a new coach. I think if you have the eligibility and you still have years left, go back to playing college. I mean, last year his his career completion percentage is only 63.9. The first year he was at Alabama, his completion percentage was at 80. Work on your craft. Work on being the best QB you can be. There's nothing bad about going back to college, and nothing to shake your head about. Getting over $6 million. I mean, I'm not making that money, and I went to college how many years ago? So give me a $6 million check.
All right, Marky, was there something you want to add?
Well, no, it was Mike had said, all that money going to someone who was 18. I'm just asking, if you were Sabrina Carpenter or a a teen actor and the next big thing at 18, I mean, do they not deserve the riches that they would befall them at a later age? I would say absolutely. I understand the concern about maturity and handling one's finances, but if they're producing that revenue, I mean, to team, I see no reason why they can't earn that.
And that's what the Supreme Court said too, Marky. So
yeah,
there you go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to start putting a list together of Disney kids that completely ruin their lives as adults?
I'm sure there are, but does that mean that they should be paid?
Though they should. That's and you have kids who did ruin their life.
Look, the NIL was originally designed to pay kids that their jerseys were selling and all this. Now it's turned into a free for all. There's no cap on it. You can do whatever you want. There's tampering. This is ridiculous. At least in the NFL, you have a contract. You got to fulfill it. These kids are bouncing around. So now they end up done with their eligibility. They've got no affiliation with any kind of university. There's no alumni base that they're loyal to. They don't have their degree. And if they don't make it in the NFL, what do you got? What do you got? And I promise you, I worked as an agent. As soon as that kid even says that they're going to get drafted, you'll be amazed how many cousins and uncles come out of the woodwork that they think they're supposed to get some of that money too. So
Mike, a lot of what you're saying is true, but that doesn't mean they still shouldn't get money. There needs to be guardrails. There need to be guidelines. There needs to be more enforcement. I mean, it's very early in that process, and really the bigger issue is the transfer portal and not honoring contracts. But there's no reason they should not be getting paid when they're the ones generating the money, as Marky said. But again, we can go all day on this, and I know we got a 10 o'clock cut.
Yeah, well, we do, and I want to get to the final thing I want to get to, but I appreciate all the input. And our final topic of the night is the Continental Football League. So, Mike, I want you to explain to everybody what it's about. And since we have a cutoff, I'm going to take myself out of the equation in terms of asking you questions because you and I have been talking for a while.
Yep.
I'm going to put the onus on Marky and Marvin and perhaps Candy to get them in. Keep in mind, we have until 10 o'clock. It means we've got about 11 minutes to wrap it up. Okay. So, Mike, give everybody a brief explanation, and then I'll turn to Marvin first and then Marky second.
Back in the 60s, there was the Continental Football League, and they were basically farm clubs, taxi squads for NFL. So as a kid in Connecticut, we used to go see the Waterbury Orbits play, and they were the farm team of the New York Jets. Same uniforms, the whole thing. It was a large league. It went all the way across the country. There were 3 teams in Canada: Montreal, Toronto, and Victoria. And we're looking to fill a niche that hasn't been addressed. And it kind of ties into what we're talking about with NIL and everything, the craziness that's going on there. 43% of the kids that go into the transfer portal end up with nothing. They've lost their scholarship. The team that they left has already replaced them, and they got no place to go. Now what are you going to do? 43%. So what we're doing is we're reviving the Continental Football League. Think of this as AA minor league baseball. Okay, we've got the Ohio Valley Ironmen, which originally was a taxi squad for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're based basically out of Wheeling, West Virginia. We have the Cincinnati Dukes. We announced the Michigan Arrows, who were our original team, and today we announced the Indianapolis Capitals. And they were the Indianapolis Capitals were the last champions of the Continental Football League in 1969. Now, the team that they beat in triple overtime was the San Antonio Toros. Well, we have the San Antonio Toros back. Now, we also have the Texas Syndicate, which is going to be based right outside of Austin, and we have the Tall City Black Gold in Midland, Texas. And if you're familiar with West Texas, it's flat, it's open, and all of a sudden the city of Midland is just sticking up. That's what they call, so their nickname is the Tall City, and then Black Gold, obviously, for the oil. And we're in negotiations right now to put one more team into Texas, but we've got about a dozen, or a little bit under a dozen cities that are ready to come in 2027, but for whatever reason, stadium commitments and that kind of thing. Now, we're going to play in the summer. Okay, so it's going to be the end of May till the middle of July, and we're not doing what all these other leagues have tried to do, and they get themselves too extended. You got to keep in mind minor league baseball. So in each division, you play within your division. So it's going to be right now, it'll be 3 games at home, 3 games on the road. At the end of the season, number 1 plays number 2 for the divisional championship. And the only travel you got is when the 2 divisions play each other. Now these kids are going on marketing agreements. They don't have contracts. So now if they want to go back to the NCAA, they've had a marketing agreement, which is basically NIL. So they can go back they can get games under their belt, get more film, either go back to the NCAA or get an opportunity to go to an NFL or a CFL camp. And we've got teams right now that are signing guys that just got released by the CFL and the NFL. And the other thing is, we don't want this to be a mercenary league. We're going to go to camp with 50 players. 25 of those players have to be between the ages of 18 and 27. Not going to have a bunch of 30-year-olds that are living delusional. All right. And we want to make sure that this is an opportunity league. Go to camp with 50, you're going to cut 10 of them. You'll have an active roster of 40. We're going to pay these kids $400. Positional players will get $400 a game. Quarterbacks will get $750. We're going to get room and board, and give them the opportunity to continue to play, get on film, and have an opportunity to go to play college football again or get into an NFL or CFL camp. Now, we've got some other things working where we can get these kids into apprenticeship after they're done playing football, and so that they can end up having a career that's already built when they get done playing. So that's the premise of the whole thing, is AA minor league baseball type of approach. Give these kids an opportunity to continue to play rather than getting in the portal and now they got nothing. This gives them a chance to go out there and continue to build their skill sets. But the big thing is, we really want to get into the community. And so part of the ownership is just like the Green Bay Packer model, is that we're actually selling stock in the team so that the fans can actually own them. We're going to, fan engaged. Make it a Saturday or a Sunday night. A family can come, be really inexpensive. We're going to be in stadiums that are smaller. So we're not looking like the Birmingham team in the UFL, where they had 4,500 players or 4,500 people and an 80,000 seat stadium. That makes no sense. So we want to be in confined spot, be community oriented, keep these kids within the community, and really build something of sustainability, giving people opportunities to own teams and giving kids an opportunity to continue to play. So that's where it's all coming from.
Okay, so we'll open it up real quick. Mark, you have a question or two for Mike?
Well, I was a sports writer for the Wheeling Intelligencer. I'd remind that the Wheeling Ironmen are still fondly of the CFL, the original one you spoke of, are still fondly remembered in Wheeling, West Virginia and such. The question, I guess, is that if you say, did I hear you right? Because the microphone went out. If you are going to be paying, say, quarterbacks $750, wouldn't that take away, if they're in the transfer portal, their eligibility for returning to college?
It's a marketing degree.
Did I hear that right? That's what I'm asking.
Marketing. It's a marketing agreement. It's not a contract. Okay, so it's the same thing as the NIL. They're not under a contract. They are a freelance player that through the marketing of the club, this is how they're getting paid.
Okay, Marvin.
All right.
I mean, not so much a question. I mean, I guess a lot of questions, but I love the idea of just giving guys another opportunity, a continued opportunity to pursue their dream and their goal. You know, the NFL it stands for not for long. You know what I'm saying? I'm a guy who over 3 years has one accredited season, and by 25, I was out the NFL. So, and I tried NFL Europe and Arena. So I'm a fan of the spring leagues from that perspective. I'm a fan of just the opportunity to continue the dream. For a lot of guys, the NFL, it's a traditional route. For a lot of guys, they got to take an alternate route. You know what I mean? And those guys make it. They make it every year. Every team has a guy or two just like that. So, yeah, Mike, I like what you got going on, man. I'd love to learn more about it and go from there.
Yeah, I was in the Canadian Football League. We knocked Doug Flutie out of the game. Who'd they put in? Jeff Garcia. He's a pretty good player, right? And so there's guys out there. There's a ton of players that all they need is a little bit more grooming and that opportunity to play. Now, the thing that's going to make us unique is we're going to have the continental shift. Because I worked in personnel in both the Canadian League and the National Football League. And in both leagues, there's a whole bunch of people that don't know how to evaluate guys from the other league. In the NFL, they get too caught up in the schematics of the CFL game, and they lose sight of the athleticism of the player. In the NFL or in the CFL, a lot of those guys just believe because you're in the NFL, they're the best players. There's not. Okay, there's guys that are all pros in the NFL that would struggle to play in the CFL because it's a different type of game. Their skill sets don't transfer. All right, and I'll give you an example. So I'm losing his name, Marvin Lewis, the linebacker, Ray Lewis with Baltimore. He wouldn't have been a middle linebacker in the Canadian Football League. He'd have been a short side of the field edge rusher. Okay, so you got to see how these guys' skill sets fit in with the type of game that they're playing. So we're going to play NFL rules the first 3 quarters, and the fourth quarter we're going to have the continental shift, and we're going to move to modified CFL rules. We're gonna go from 4 downs to 3. We're gonna take the 40-second clock and bring it down to 20. There's no fair catch. You're gonna have the 5-yard rule. We're gonna have the rouge built in there that if you don't return the ball out of the end zone, it's a point for the team that kicked it. And speed the game up, show you a different way to play. My personal belief is I was in the CFL for 8 years. I was in the NFL for 5. I think the game itself is a better game, and so this gives the evaluators an opportunity to see these kids' skill sets playing under both sets of rules, and it's going to speed up the game. It's going to make it more exciting for the fans, and really do something that's different.
Okay, Katie, you got about a 30-second station break.
Well, I just want to quick ask one question, Mike. Where, besides in person, where can we watch these games?
Yeah, we're going to be able to live stream them all across the country. We've got a company right now that we're just working out the particulars, that the game will come live from the stadium, and then we're looking at different packages. Do you buy a season pass? Do you buy single game passes? And and we'll have that announced here probably within the month of March.
And when we do get those announcements, Mike, on your shorter segments, you can primarily focus on your updates going forward with the Continental Football League. And if you have a little bit more time, you'll just talk about other football stuff. We have to make sure while everybody's on here, it's policy of the platform. Katie, give us a quick station break, and then we'll end it. Shouldn't take that long.
South Florida Tribune Publishing Company published a book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by our host, Scott the Motor City Madmouth Morganroth. It is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, and Apple Books. The audio version is also out there. There's a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. If you like to listen to podcasts, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want to be a guest or have show topic ideas, or you want to sponsor a show, you can always email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. Last but not least, if you see the red subscribe button in that lower right-hand corner, please click it, like it, share us, and then turn on your notifications so you're notified every time we go live. Back to you, Scott.
All right. Thanks a lot, Earl, for wanting to buy the book. There's where it's at Amazon. Yeah, I know we're running out of time, so we'll put the post things afterwards. But Marky, good to have you on. Looking forward to seeing you.
I enjoyed it.
Well, good seeing you. We'll see you next Wednesday night. Mike, you and I
Look
will be
forward to
texting. Mike, we look forward like having you on. Mike, you know what? I'm looking forward for us to continue to collaborate and do things together, and hopefully you get a feel for what we're doing tonight. As you build your platform, we want to be the primary way to help you get to build the growth. And I'm so glad you're on my team, Mike. I really am.
Thanks, Scott. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on here tonight. And it's a pleasure to be with all of you.
Yeah, well, you get to see all of us and maybe that one, then some when you come back next week. So I'm working on building a strong show that we can get it out there. And Mike, I'm just so glad you trusted me enough with all my persistence to get you on here. Now it shouldn't be a harder sell to get you on the next one, should it?
No, that's good. I love persistence. That's the key to life as far as I'm concerned.
Well, that's what I learned to do as a kid, be persistent. And I'll keep being persistent until the man upstairs says I'm no Motor City no mouth, meaning I can't talk anymore. But with that said, Candy, I don't really want that to happen. So Marvin, good job tonight. We put you on too, and I know you and Candy be in touch with me. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us on this edition of the Sports Exchange. On behalf of Marvin Paul III, Candy, Marky Bilson, and Mike Kelly, my name is Scott Morganroth, the Motor City Madman. Thank you for joining us. We will see you the next time. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Mike, I'll be texting you the next day or so. We'll see what we can work out. But meanwhile, I had a lot of great additions tonight, and I'm proud of every one of you, man. Between you and Marky, it was great stuff. So, all right, that does it. We'll talk. We'll have a good night, and we'll catch you the next time out. Bye now.